Chapter 10 of Jujutsu Kaisen Modulo delivers the long-awaited moment. The confirmation that Yuji Itadori is still alive. The story opens with a heated debate among the Jujutsu higher-ups regarding Maru's recent loss of control during his previous battle. Usami steps in to defend Maru, arguing that his actions were meant to protect his teammates, while the elders see the incident as a potential threat linked to the alien faction. Amid this tension, a new legal concept called the Hikari Clause is introduced, a rule that officially legalizes duels between sorcerers within commercial contexts. This explains why the fight between Maru and Tsuri didn't break any regulations, as it was considered an authorized match. Things are about to get really interesting. Oh yeah, so we can keep interacting and making the anime storytelling world even more fun together. Don't forget to subscribe, hit the like button, and drop your thoughts in the comments to keep the vibe going. Alright guys, let's jump straight into the discussion. Let's go. This chapter dives deep into the political tension between humans and the Samrians, raising one big question. Will they find a way to coexist peacefully, or is another massive war on the horizon? There are also nods to familiar faces like Yuji and Hikari, along with wild theories suggesting Yuji and even Mahito might make a return in the final battle. The story kicks off with a political meeting among the new leaders of the Jujutsu world in the current era. Usami attends the meeting, casually watching a holographic replay of Maru's fight against a cursed user from previous chapters. One of the older council members questions whether they're really just going to ignore that incident, and Usami pretends not to get the point. The higher-ups complained that the Samrians have been given too much freedom, even to the point of defying human authority. Usami tries to defuse the tension by explaining that Maru's incident was nothing more than a normal clash between two sorcerers, similar to when Sugi and Yuka were defeated by another curse user. He insists Maru only stepped in to stabilize the situation. But things take a sharp turn when one of the elders brings up that Maru once tried to attack Tsurugi. This shocks both Usami and Mino since they had already deleted all the footage of Maru's fight with Sugi. That means the higher-ups must have gotten their hands on a copy before it was erased. The elder then declares that if this information is true, the Samrians could be classified as a serious threat. Usami, however, doesn't back down. He calmly argues that the incident didn't technically violate any rules because it falls under the Hikari provision. His statement surprises the younger council members, some even standing up in confusion. They've never heard of such a thing before. A young woman sitting beside Usami steps in to clarify. She explains that the Hikari provision did exist long ago, a legal clause that allowed public battles between sorcerers, as long as they were conducted as official gambling matches. This revelation ties back to Megumi, who once promised Hikari to legalize his battle arena after taking over the Zenin clan following the Culling game. After that arc, the new Jujutsu authorities passed similar regulations, especially since the truth about cursed spirits had already been exposed to the public. Turning sorcerer duels into commercial entertainment suddenly didn't seem so bad, at least financially. Although the gambling concept was eventually scrapped, the Hikari provision itself was never removed from Jujutsu law. So, technically it's still valid even today, though almost never used in modern times. The younger members are baffled, wondering who in their right mind thought such a law could work in the first place. Despite the rising tension, Usami continues to manipulate the situation in his favor. He insists that since Maru, Tsurugi, and Yuka all operate under his jurisdiction, their internal fights don't violate any rule as long as they follow the Hikari provision. This annoys the council, as Maru's official recognition hasn't even been approved by headquarters or voted on formally. Still, Usami doubles down, saying Maru was recruited as a civilian guardian, making him a latent sorcerer. Mino adds that this term refers to individuals who unintentionally use cursed energy without fully understanding it, meaning they aren't treated as dangerous curse users. Think of it like a probation status, a warning without severe consequences. The elders argue back that since all Samrians naturally possess cursed energy, such lenient laws could become a real problem. But Usami coolly counters, saying not every Samrian can actually control their power. That final comment makes the council suspicious. Why is Usami so determined to defend these so-called aliens? Usami fires back with a sharp question, asking why they're so eager for war in the first place. The room falls silent, the tension thick. In the end, the council decides they can't stay passive any longer. They must send a warning to the aliens and prove that humanity still holds power. To do that, they reopen an old case that was previously suspended, the search for the missing Itadori Yuji. The next panel shifts the focus. Yuji is seen walking among a crowd, blending in like an ordinary citizen. The scene suggests he's been living under the radar, possibly due to a secret mission or reasons yet unknown. What's certain now is that Yuji is alive, and that his return might be one of the key goals moving forward. Usami admits the plan makes sense, but he warns the council not to treat this situation like a corporate meeting. This isn't a business negotiation, it's a matter of international stakes. One wrong move could bring ruin to their nation. He even mocks the officials, saying that if they're only now deciding to do their jobs, they should at least avoid destroying the country in the process. Meanwhile, over on the Sumerian side, the scene shifts to a man seen earlier in a flashback. The One Cross once beat down for sabotaging a canal before it became Lumrian territory. Now he's back, ranting in public about how Bora, an outsider, has somehow gained total control and makes the final calls for their entire tribe. After the Sumerians migrated, Bora was appointed as the Great Chieftain. Though their tribe follows a democratic voting system, Bora holds full veto power to override the council's decisions. To the man, this feels like nothing but disguised dictatorship. However, the tribe's elder explains that this decision came directly from Maru and Cross themselves. According to the elder, Bora was chosen because she's not one of them, making her the most objective and unbiased leader. But the man, named Oi, objects furiously, claiming their exile from their home planet was Bora's fault. In truth, it wasn't. The real culprits were the Discani leaders and their own greed. Bora was merely a tool used by them to eliminate dissenters. That old hatred still burns, aimed at those on the front line rather than the true power behind the curtain. Even if Bora were removed, the problem wouldn't end. The Discani still despise the Lumrians. It shows that Oski's mindset hasn't really changed. He's still venting his anger at whoever stands in front of him, rather than the ones actually responsible. The elder scolds Oski, urging him to control his temper. He reminds him that a chief's veto can only be used twice against the council's decisions, meaning Bora can't keep rejecting their votes forever. Sooner or later, she'll have no choice but to give in. With Maru's injuries now public across the Sumerian assembly, tensions are at an all-time high. Twice now, the council has voted in favor of declaring war on Earth, and both times, Bora has used her veto to block it. But the third vote looms, and if it once again calls for war, Bora will be forced to approve an invasion of Earth. It's now clear that several elites among the Sumerians want this war to happen. The elder even declares boldly that after the third vote, there shall be realized. Oski responds with a cruel smile, picturing the fall of Japan and the rise of a new autonomous zone built upon its ruins. To them, this victory would mark the end of their identity as Lumrians and the beginning of their rebirth as true Discani, no longer the oppressed, but the oppressors. This whole chain of events reveals the endless cycle of hatred and violence. Those who were once victims now justify their own cruelty, convinced that power absolves them of guilt. Meanwhile, on the other side of the story, Cross meets with Jabaloma to discuss a crucial decision that will determine the future of both races. Cross directly asks why Jabaloma hasn't cast his vote yet, whether they'll choose coexistence or war. Calmly, Jabaloma replies that he's been waiting to hear Cross's opinion first. He explains that both he and Cross hold significant voting power within the Samrian tribe, and if the two of them decide in favor of coexistence, the invasion can't move forward. Interestingly, Jabaloma says he'll support whatever decision Cross makes. If Cross chooses coexistence, he'll stand by that. But if Cross chooses invasion, he's ready to follow that path too. Hearing this, Cross questions whether Jabaloma doesn't have a will or personal view of his own. Jabaloma simply smiles and says that sometimes trusting someone else is a form of will. His words reflect a deep sense of wisdom and open-mindedness, showing how different his way of thinking is compared to many others in the tribe. As an elder who's gone through so much in life, Jabaloma seems completely ready to let the younger generation decide which direction their people should take. He understands that the world has changed, and perhaps the best choices now lie in the hands of youth. His attitude mirrors that of Usami, who placed his faith in Yuka and Tsurugi to lead the path toward coexistence. In the end, Jabaloma simply wants what's best for his people. He follows what they desire without a trace of selfishness. His sincerity earns him deep respect and admiration from many. When the Samrians finally begin casting their votes, Cross falls silent, lost in memories of his time among the humans of Earth. He recalls a small child who lost his balloon, Tsurugi's heartfelt apology, and Yuka's unwavering belief that they could break the cycle of violence together. He also remembers Dora and the lessons about neighborly life that once shaped his heart. Those memories flood his mind, bringing back the rise and fall of his childhood and the bittersweet faces of his past. With a somber expression, he finally places his vote into the box. As Jabaloma starts counting the votes, the results shock everyone. The majority has chosen to coexist with humans. The decision drives Oski into a rage. He yells in disbelief, furious that Cross and Jabaloma could change their stance on such a monumental issue. He even tries to invalidate the outcome, arguing that Maru's unconscious state means his vote shouldn't count. But Cross firmly responds that from the very beginning, Maru's stance on peace has always been clear. There's no need to wake him to confirm it. Frustrated, Oski turns to Bora for support, expecting her, as usual, to reject the idea of coexistence. But this time, to everyone's surprise, Bora sides with peace. She says she sees no problem in living side by side with humans, though she warns that war could always return. If that happens, she adds, there will be no turning back to mutual understanding. That's why she stresses the importance of giving coexistence a real chance, reminding everyone that this was Dora's dream, for all of them to live as respectful neighbors. When the voting concludes, Jabaloma and Cross walk out of the chamber together. Jabaloma admits his respect for Cross, mirroring the same respect Cross once showed him. With that historic decision, coexistence between the Samrian race and humanity is officially approved. Later, they reunite with Usami, Yuka, and Tsurugi to discuss the next step, a joint meeting and dinner so both races can get to know each other and exchange goodwill. Usami is surprised to learn that Bora had secretly been helping the Samrians all along. Judging from her usual demeanor, he never would have guessed she had such a kind side. During their light-hearted conversation, Jabaloma also shares something fascinating about the Kaelin, a sacred being revered by the Samrians for its immortality, said to only die if slain. This revelation gives the humans a deeper understanding of Samrian culture and the values that shape their civilization. Maru and Cross were then assigned to help with the preparations for the joint dinner. Meanwhile, Yuka and Tsurugi teamed up with other Samrians to discuss the best dishes that both sides could enjoy together. They carefully studied each other's cultural taboos, figuring out which foods might be considered offensive or even dangerous to the other race. Every ingredient, every flavor was chosen with caution, as this meal wasn't just about food, it was about trust. Although the dinner seemed peaceful and full of hope, there was an uneasy feeling in the air. The story subtly hinted that something was bound to happen. With so much left untold, it felt like this gathering between humans and Samrians could easily turn into chaos, especially with people like Oski and his group still around. Those who had opposed the idea of coexistence from the very beginning. These were the same ones who destroyed the previous channel, and they might not hesitate to ruin this peace talk too. Everything seemed fragile, uncertain, like calm waters hiding a coming storm. This chapter focused mostly on food and the preparations for the dinner. But beneath that calm surface lay the seeds of another potential conflict. It felt like the last moment of tranquility before another major storm hit. In the end, this chapter marked a crucial turning point in Jujutsu Kaisen Modulo's world. The conflict was no longer just about power. It had evolved into something deeper: politics, diplomacy, and law between two races trying to find common ground. The revelation that Yuji was still alive gave hope that balance could still be restored, yet the shadow of war continued to loom. Dabura's decision to support coexistence provided a brief pause from the chaos, but the threat from figures like Majito and Yabaroma hinted that the peace wouldn't last long. The tension spiked even further when Yuji Itadori's name was mentioned again. Usami and several others proposed searching for him, believing he was still alive and could become the key to stabilizing the fragile relationship between humans and aliens. On the alien side, Dabura, now acting as their leader, firmly rejected the call for war. Instead, he chose the path of coexistence, even though many among his own kind opposed him. Finally, after a heated debate, the Alien Council voted to attempt peaceful relations with humans. Their first step toward that was a cultural exchange, beginning with the shared dinner prepared by Yuka, Tsurugi, Maru, and Cross. Vav, that's really interesting. Thank you so much for sticking with the story till the end. If you have any questions, feel free to write them down in the comments section below. Thanks again for watching, and see you in the next one.